So next up, we are going to talk about how to be culturally effective CHWs, right? So we're going to talk about strategies for culturally effective CHWs. So really how to practice that cultural humility, and also to be culturally responsive uh, with the community you're trying to serve. Um, so when we talk about cultural effectiveness, CHWs must engage in continuous self-reflection and adaptation to provide inclusive and respectful care. Understand, as a CHW, you're going to have to be dynamic. It's not static. You have to constantly shift and change your practices based on who you are serving. That's all about the person-centered care. And so it's not so much that you are being trained to work with a culture, right? You're being trained to understand about a culture, but really you're being trained to work with a person. And so we need to understand that culture does influence the person, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to adapt and provide care for the individual who we are trying to serve. So some of the key strategies for applying culture of humility is transference of power, evaluating unconscious biases, cultural self-awareness, and also learning from clients. And so when we're talking about transference of power, it lets clients lead the conversation. Typically, CHWs come in and they are the ones who are in a position of power. So instead of dictating solutions, CHWs allow clients to express their needs and priorities, empowering them in decision making. So instead of assuming the expert role, CHWs empowers their clients to actually have a voice and to share their concerns, their priorities, and their preferences in healthcare decisions. And so, why is this important? Because it helps a client feel heard, valued, and respected, and encourage self efficacy and an active participation in their own health. It avoids this paternalistic or authoritarian approach when clients are trying to make decisions, right? CHW should not come in and make decisions for clients. CHW's role is to educate the client so that the client can make the best decision for themselves. How can we apply this strategy? Is clients should feel in control of their health decisions, and CHW serve as facilitators, not decision makers, right? You provide all the education, you're connecting the services, but at the end of the day, the client is the one who makes the decisions. Also, too, asking open-ended questions instead of making assumptions. Tell me more about that. Can you explain that a little bit more? So, what exactly are you seeking here? And then encourage clients to identify their own health goals before offering recommendations. Involve clients in decision making processes. When we think back to public health, and the number one core function of public health is assessment, and a part of that assessment, yes, is collecting data, but in order for us to get to policy development, which is the next core function, which is actually providing a solution, we have to first understand what is the problem, and we do that in the assessment phase. And the most important person who is a part of the assessment phase and collecting of data information and trying to figure out what is the problem is the person who is most impacted. So, in this stage in transference of power, one of the things to understand is the client needs to be a part of the decision making. The client needs to make the decision for themselves. So, an example is the CHW is working with a pregnant woman from an immigrant community who prefers home birth due to cultural beliefs. Instead of telling her what to do, the CHW asked about her concerns and reason for preferring her home birth, explores safe birthing options that align with her preference, and connects her with a culturally competent midwife or doula who can provide care within her comfort zone. Also, too, evaluating unconscious biases. So, really reflecting on personal assumptions. So, unconscious biases are automatic judgments and assumptions we make based on our own upbringing, culture, and experiences. CHW must actively reflect on these biases to ensure they do not negatively impact clients' interactions. So, why is this important? It prevents stereotypes and misconceptions. We cannot generalize people. And that's what happens when we have these biases. We generalize people and we make these assumptions about people. Also, too, it encourages culturally responsive care that respect individual differences. It helps build trust and stronger relationships with clients as well. And how CHW can apply this strategy is CHWs must challenge their own assumptions, be open to learning and adapting the recommendations to fit the client's lived reality, right? Just because you have a solution does not mean that solution is going to work with the client. So it's very important that you adapt your solution with the client. And if you don't know what the solution is for the client, you may have to bring someone else in order to come up with a solution. We also need to recognize our personal biases and how these influence interactions. Also, to ask rather than assume when working with clients from their diverse backgrounds. Also, to seek feedback from clients and peers about cultural sensitive in their practice. Some example is a CHW assumes that a client with diabetes must follow a strict Western diet, like low carb, lean meat, salads. However, the client is from an Asian culture where rice is a staple food. Instead of forcing a Western diet, the CHW can ask about the client's dietary habits, work with them to modify traditional meals while maintaining cultural integrity, and also recommend alternative meal prep strategies that align with both health goals and cultural preferences. Another strategy is cultural self awareness. So, recognizing how your own culture shaped your perspective. So, cultural self awareness means understanding how your own background, values, and beliefs influence your approach to healthcare and communication. So, why it's important, it helps CHWs identify personal biases that may affect client interactions and encourage cultural humility and adaptability, and it strengthens the ability to relate to and respect diverse populations. So, how CHWs can apply this? CHWs must first recognize their own cultural perspective is not universal, and having adaptability is very key to effective communication. Also, to reflect on how personal experiences shape up perceptions of health, wellness, and treatment. Encourage and engage in cultural humility training and professional development, and also be willing to modify communication styles based on cultural norms, right? Some cultures value that direct communication, while others prefer an indirect approach. And so, example is a CHW who grew up in a Western medical system assumes that direct eye contact and open discussion about emotions are standard in healthcare interactions. However, when working with an elder from a Native American community, they notice that the client avoids direct eye contact, which is a sign of respect in some indigenous cultures, prefers storytelling and shared experiences over direct medical questions. So instead of forcing Western norms, the CHW adjusts their approach by using storytelling and indirect discussion to build rapport, respecting nonverbal cues that indicate comfort and discomfort, involving community elders in health conversations to maintain cultural respect. Another thing too is learning from the client, right? Valuing lived experiences over textbook knowledge. You can only learn so much from the textbook, right? So you really need to go out there and really um, try to have some informal learning, whether that be from the client or through your own personal experiences. So learning from a client, clients are experts in their own experience, and their stories, traditions, and cultural practice provide insight that no textbook can fully capture. So why is this important? Because it builds that strong relationships with the client. It shows respect and validation for the lived experience of the client. It helps CHW understand diverse health beliefs and practices directly from the source. It also encourages collaborative problem solving where clients feel actively involved. And then how CHW can apply this strategy. Clients' cultural perspective and lived experience should be treated as valuable knowledge sources, not obstacles to care. Ask about health tradition, family roles, and experiences with healthcare systems. Validate cultural health practices rather than dismissing them. And engage with community leaders, elders, and cultural representatives to deepen understanding. So, some examples is a CHW working in a Haitian community learns that many residents rely on voodoo healing practices alongside modern medicine. So, instead of dismissing the CHW, ask about the role of spiritual healers in the community, work to integrate health education in a way that complements cultural traditions, and collaborate with local spiritual leaders to bridge gaps between traditional healing and modern healthcare. So, in all, by integrating these strategies, CHWs can build trust, promote cultural responsive care, and improve health outcomes in diverse communities. Transference of power, let clients lead their health journey to promote self efficacy, evaluate unconscious biases, challenge personal assumptions, and avoid stereotyping. Cultural self awareness, understand how your own background shaped your perspective, and learning from clients, value cultural traditions, lived experiences, and community wisdoms.